All HTML elements can be thought of as living in a box. And we call that box the CSS box model. And it allows us to position things and lay them out the way that we want. The way that the box works is there's an inner part, and that's where the content goes. So for a paragraph, the text goes there. For an image, the picture goes there. For a H1, the text goes in that content box. And then outside of the content box is the padding. And the padding is the space between the content and the border. Following that is the border, so we can add a border. Now, borders are by default set to none. So when we add an element, it doesn't show the border. It's there, but its style is set to none, so there's nothing to see. Then after the border comes the margin, and the margin is the space between the border and the next element. So that gives us a way that we can control each of these individual parts of the box. And we can set the sizes for how much space we want the content to take up, how much space we want the padding and the border and the margin to take up. And we can get really specific. We can do the padding all the way around the same, or we can have the padding top be a single value and the padding right be a different value. So lots of control over the CSS box model. We're going to be working with padding and margin for right now. So let's look at what our options are for those. So here's an image of a paragraph, and there's the content inside the content box. So we're not going to make any change to that, but we do want to do something with the padding. Now, when we work with padding, we have a few options. So the property is called padding. If we give it one size, then it will put that on every side. So the padding on the top, right, bottom, and left will all be 12 pixels. That's when we use one value. If we use two values, then the top and bottom will have the first value. So the top and bottom on this one would be 24 pixels, and the left and right would be the second value, so the 18 pixels. We can also use padding with four values. When we do that, it goes top, right, bottom, and left in that order. And so you can set all four to be a different value or all four to be exactly the same. Lots of flexibility here. And if you do want to just do one of them, you can use one of these padding properties and just set a single one. And that's what we're going to do for this one. So some elements come with their own padding. And that's the case with unordered and ordered lists. They have padding. And notice that remember when we set the list style type to none, that it removed those list markers, but it didn't change the location of this. And lists have a lot of padding here, and part of the reason it has that padding is to hold those list markers. But now that we've removed the list markers, we no longer need that extra space. So let's go ahead and set the padding to something that we want. So if we go into the style sheet and we find our nav UL, so there's our nav UL, and we're going to add, and this is where a UL is a child of the nav, we're going to add padding left and set it to 5 pixels and save that. And then we can go back and refresh. And there, notice how it moved it over. So now there's some padding, but it's only 5 pixels instead of the default 40 pixels.